Assalamualaikum and very good day to all. So my name is Dr. Muhammad Zarif Biramli, a lecturer and also the course coordinator for agroecology, and welcome to this course. And today I would like to share the introduction to forage crops. So before I begin the lecture, so these are the objective or the learning outcome from this topic. First is define key terminology related to forage crops. Second, classify forage crops based on botanicals, functional, and agronomic criteria. Third, differentiate between pasture, hay, silage, and other forage forms. And finally, understand the role of forage crops in livestock production system. So previously, this course was taught by SBL or SFA lecturers, but today, this semester, this course will be conducted by me as the first timer teaching you guys, and first batch also teaching agroecology for SFH. In this topic, we will learn on the terminology in forage crops, and these all the terminology will be used in the whole course. So it will revolve around the course. So, what is the forest crops? So, forest crops are plants cultivated or managed primarily for feeding livestock. So, understanding the terminology is essential for effective communication and management in forest science. So, basically, all the plants that we cultivate and also we manage, or in Malay we call rumput yang diternak ataupun tumbuhan yang diternak primarily for feeding livestock. This is what we call the forage crop, right? So forage, any plants material, either it is leaves, stems, or whole plants consumed by grazing or harvested and fed to the livestock. It is all included grasses, legumes, crops, and crop residue. So this is another terms: grasses, legume, crops, and crop. So we will look later. So next is pasture. Pasture can be defined by land on which forage crops are grown and grazed directly by livestock. It may be permanent in long-term sort or temporary, rotational, and seasonal. So basically, if we are rearing the livestock by managing them in a free grazing system, so we need pasture for them as a feeding. Okay. Next, hay, forage that has been cut, dried to less than 15% moisture, and baled for storage and later feeding. Commonly, we use grass hay, legumes hay. So legumes, several species like alfalfa and clover, or sometimes they mix. So hay and pasture um, can be defined as a pasture is the fresh grass, where the hay is a preserve, right? So these are the difference between the pasture and hay. So the another method to preserve the forage. So we use silage. We make it as a silage. So forage preserved by anaerobic fermentation. This we call the ensiling. Typically at 60 to 70% of moisture, stored in silos, bunkers, or red bales to in this bill, so they have a pH drops to we have to wait until the pH drop within 14 to 21 days to 4 to 4.5. It is quite acidic. So these all the acidic due to the lactic acid production. So we have another topic that we will discuss further on the how to preserve all those forage. So next, green chop. Freshly cut forage is fed directly to animals without drying or ensiling. Require daily harvesting, high nutritional value but labor intensive. So if we use method of the cut and carry, means you have to harvest the forage and then you carry the harvested forage to the pens and feeding your livestock. So this is what we call the green chop. Next, standing forage or stockpile forage. So usually this practice were used in the temperate country, and then forage allowed to accumulate in the field or deferred grazing. Example, during the autumn and winter grazing. So you can Google this picture of the standing forage, right? So next, browse. Typically, we talking about the how the livestock, for example, the sheep, goat, horse, and cattle, how the feeding regime or the methods of the consume, right? So we can say they are browsing or they are grazing, right? So for the browse, woody plants, shrub, tree leaves, twigs consumed by livestock, especially goats and deer, often supplemental or emergency feed. So basically, for goat and deer, they feeding regimes through browsing. So they prefer to browse the woody plants. So they love more leaf compared to the grass. So for sheep, they love more um, grass because they are more to grazing. Right, next, persistence, the longevity of the forage stands and grazing or environmental stress. Is we want to see the hardiness of the grass. And next, the nutritive value, the concentration of digestible energy, proteins, minerals, and vitamin in forage. So every forage, if we want to feed the livestock, we have to do the approximate analysis or the laboratory analysis to know the nutritional value of each of the forage. So different age, different methods of preservations, different species may have a different nutritional value that usually we will combine, mix them to feed the livestock. Next is roughage. So high fiber, low energy feedstuff, including hay, straw, mature, pasture, essential for ruminant function in ruminants. So if we are learning about the ruminant function, we have to know the roughage responsible during the fermentation, right? So next is concentrate. Yeah, concentrate usually we are focused on the feed um, uh, feed supplement. You for example, bahasa mudah in Malay, dedak lah, dedak ataupun pellet, we call it concentrate. Low fiber, high energy feeds such as grains, not forage but often fed alongside. Usually we feed the livestock, for example for the ruminant, we have to feed them both forage and also the concentrate. Usually the ratio for forage is 70%, and then another 30% we provide the concentrate to them. So either you use the commercial pellets, commercials, the duck, and sometimes people just use grains. They harvested the corns, the maize, and then they feed the livestock. So also categorized as the concentrate. Next is carrying capacity, the number of animal a pasture can support over a given time without degradation, expressed in animals unit per hectare and acre. So for example, we have 1 acre. So how many animals or how many cattle, goat and sheep can be employed onto the 1 acre of the Bracharia humidicola pasture. So, for example, that's we call the carrying capacity. Next, regrowth and regeneration, the ability of forage plants to produce new growth after grazing or cutting. Okay, for example, we cut the napier grass ataupun we call the rumput gajah. So this napier grass will have ability to they have the ability to regrow for several generations. So usually technically napier grass can be grown until up to 5 generation or 5 cycles. So every cycles they may have a different yield. So that's why we have to know also the ability of every species to regrow or to regenerate. Next, we go to the classification of forage crops. So, forage crops can be classified according to several criteria. Understanding these helps in selection, management, and utilization. So, first, botanical classification. We see the number one, grasses, family Poaceae, cotyledons, fibrous root systems, hollow stems, leaf blades with parallel vines. Example, Timothy, orchid grass, Bermuda grass, ryegrass, fescue, sorghum, and Sudan grass. Characteristics: high yields and good persistence, moderate protein, high fiber. So anything you can observe on the leaf blades and the parallel vines, and also sometimes most of the grasses, no, no, all the grasses are fibrous root. So we classify under the grasses, right? So next, legumes, family Fabaceae, dicotyledons, taproots, ability to fix atmospheric nitrogens via rhizobium symbiosis. Example, alfalfa, red clover, white clover, bird's foot, trefoil, and sunfoils. And these all the legumes from foreign country or temperate country, as well as the grasses. So basically, this is just how all the examples and characteristics. So later on, we will observe on the field. So when we go to the practical session, so we will see clearly what is grass and what is the legumes. So legumes have the characteristics: high protein, of course, high protein, 20% and above, 20% to 30% sometimes, up to 40%. Oh, sorry, up to 40%. For example, soybean under legumes, so it can have a protein until 40%. So better mineral content, improve soil fertility because of the existing of the rhizobium. So rhizobium, if you are used to know the nitrogen cycles. So the legumes highly responsible in the harboring the rhizobium or the microbes for nitrogen fixations. So nitrogen fixation will improve the soil's fertility. And finally, it's less persistent under the heavy grazing. So if under heavy grazing, dia boleh mati lah. Number three, forks, broadleaf non-legume. So just now a narrow blade. Now we're talking about the herbaceous dicots not in Fabaceae may have a nutritional or medicinal value. For example, kakori, plantain, brassicas for grazing often include in multi-species pasture for diversity resilience. Um, if you see the picture here, it's actually in Malay we call the rumput Israel or uh, rumput nyonya, rumput nyonya, uh, asiatica in the specific name and in the species name. And then next, for the woody browse, shrubs and tree used in silvopasture or arid, semi-arid systems, example Lucena, mulberry, willow, tagas, saste. So for example, Lucena ni masa dekat Malaysia we call petai belalang. Petai belalang ni adalah keluarga Lucena. Pokok turi juga under Lucena. Mulberry of course lah, takkan you tak tahu kan mulberry ni kalau you go DAP ke Makmal tu, tepi-tepi tu semua pokok mulberry. Okay. So kalau untuk livestock memang sukalah pokok mulberry ni. Okay, next for the life cycles classification. So there are three. We can classify all the forage based on the um, their life cycles, right? So it can be annuals, biennials, and perennials. Okay, for annuals, complete life cycle in one growing season, planted and harvested, grazed within a year. Then uh, we have to plant again, right? So, example, and the ryegrass, oats, brassicas, and sorghum, Sudan grass or paddy, also the annuals. And then biennials, life cycle spans 2 years, vegetative in year one, reproductive in year two. For example, sweet clover, so quite rare lah for forage to have the biennials and usually in the temperate country. And then finally, the perennial live for more than 2 years, regrow from crowns or rhizomes, form the basis of permanent pasture, example alfalfa, tall pasture, white clover, Bermuda grass, and napier also can be classified under the perennial. Seasonal growth patterns actually is not applicable in Malaysia because we don't have a seasonal patterns. So if you go to the temperate country, they have two seasonals. For example, the cool season forage, optimal growth at 15 to 25 degree, active in spring and fall, may go dormant in summer heat. And for example, you can read here alfalfa and perennial ryegrass. And second, warm season forage, optimal growth at 30 to 25, active in summer, low productivity in cool weather. Examples are crabgrass, pearl millet, sorghum, switchgrass. So if we take the seed from this warm season forage, so we can actually planted it here, planted in our tropical environment. Okay, next we want to discuss on the utilization methods classifications. Either all the forage can be used as grazing and can be used for conservation and probably dual purpose forage. Right? For grazing forage, managed for direct animal consumption in pasture, so require traits like grazing tolerance, rapid regrowth, and persistence. So grazing forage are widely being practiced in Malaysia, where we just plant once. For example, we planting the Bracharia medicola, Rico rumput minyak. So kita tanam sekali saja dan we let the animals to graze on the pasture. Then after that, with or without management, for example, you just put what we call you just put the fertilizers or none of them, it will grow. It will grow, and the animals can graze again there. And next, grown for harvest and forage in the conservation forage. So we can use the hay, silage, and nowadays people use haylage. Haylage, haylage, the easiest way because the machine harvesting the grass, then they bale the grass and then they wrap the grass in the bale so it will become the haylage, right? So selected for yield, drying rate, or fermentability silage is depend on the species. So for example, in Malaysia they use or they are popular to conserve this forage. For example, corn, uh, napier grass, Bracharia humidicola as a hay and also as a silage. And then finally, for dual purpose forage, suitable for grazing and conservation. Example, alfalfa, tall fescue, and also the grass. Actually, in Malaysia, we can use, for example, apa nama ni? Okay, Bracharia medicola, rumput minyak, you can use for grazing and also to make silage. But for napier grass, it's not suitable for grazing, but it can be used as a silage to conserve, using the conserve. So for dual purpose, you can use perkara yang dikelola as a example lah dekat Malaysia ni, okay, for dual purpose forage. Alright, next, importance of classification and terminology. So first, guide species selection based on climate, soil, livestock types, and management goals. Second, inform harvesting and storage methods to preserve quality, like hay and also the silage. And third, have to design sustainable grazing systems and crop rotation, probably based on the carrying capacity of the livestock. So it will help us to design a sustainable grazing system. For example, we have just a 1 acre, so how many animals can be placed on the pasture, right? And finally, essential for research, extension, and policy communications. Since, for example, if we want to do the extension program, um, do extension program or research, for example. So basically, we have to know the nature of the animals. For example, the sheep love or uh, they are mainly on the grazing, so you cannot plant something forage, shrubs or the broadleaf, because they love more grasses, right? So these all the importance you have to know first before we can discuss further in the next topic, right? So I think that's all with that. Thank you so much.